Okay, NXT. Now, before we get started, I don't normally do this, and now that I just botched my first video, just in case Amber's watching this, Amber Paradox, this is the person that I'm mentioning to you guys. Below in the comments, I will leave a link to her Twitch. Actually, it's active right now. I'm one of the people on her Twitch that's in the chat. I'm Zenix. Yeah, I'm Zenix. Even though I'm called Zane here, I'm Zenix. I decided I wanted to say this and hope that more people will go to her channel. She's going to be using an avatar, guys. She's a VTuber, but she's very entertaining. She's a very intelligent lady. She knows multiple topics. She does reactions, and she's fun. She's funny. If you watch her, just know she uses an avatar. She uses a voice changer, but it doesn't change the fact of who you see doesn't reflect the person that is behind the camera and the voice changer. You'll see she's a very nice lady. Sweet, nice, one hell of a softie. I'm sorry I had to say it. But I'm saying this because as someone kind of like herself, she wanted something more. And for me personally, as someone who came on to YouTube 12 years ago, who was inspired by other wrestling YouTubers, and due to depression and anxiety, yeah, just in case Amber's looking at this, I came on here because of depression and anxiety. I'm disabled. I don't work anymore. I can't work. And I've had a very hard life. I'm not trying to brag about it. It's not been easy for me. But I believed there was something I could try and do differently. I wanted to be more, as I left a message on Amber's YouTube channel that I am a shy person. I am. I mean, I could talk to someone individually and maybe a couple of people, but I'm normally shy and I don't really bother with people much. I don't try to hurt anybody. I don't try to do anything, but I'm shy. That's just how I am. But I thought doing this could help me to talk to people, to be more proactive in believing in myself, because with depression, anxiety is hard. And kind of like with Amber, she just wanted something more. Of course, our situations are different. But for me, I want to say this to Amber directly, if she even sees this. Girl, I'm proud of you. As an old man, yeah, I'm an old man. I may not look that old, but I'm a bit old. I care about people succeeding. I may never become a big YouTuber or a wrestling YouTuber. I don't care. I do this because I love it. And I see you care about what you're doing. And that's why your chat loves you so much. That's why I say I love you so much. And I just want you to understand that you're doing well. Believe in yourself. You're doing well. And I don't know what else really to say other than I just want you to make it and be proud of yourself, which I'm sure you are. And if you don't want to watch anymore, you don't have to. I have to do my wrestling reviews, so I'll see you in chat. Bye-bye. Now, for everybody else who is watching, like I said, I'll leave the comments in the comments below. I'm botch. If you're still watching, I tend to botch a lot. But if you want to see her, it'll be in the comments below. I'll leave the link for her Twitch right now. But let's make it clear. What did we get on this hot show of NXT? And I'll probably use that as a title. Guys, we got about a few weeks left before October 1st, before NXT moves over to the CW network. We got a very good show that I find to be a little more entertaining than Raw or pretty much SmackDown at this time, because they're still in the holding pattern. SmackDown will be interesting this Friday because they will be moving permanently to where they are now. Raw won't go to Netflix until next year. They just won't. But they are supposedly shortening their time. Instead of being 3 hours, it's going to be 2 hours. That's what we're going to get with them. But NXT is a little different. Since it's the developmental, they are giving us something different and working with TNA. Guys, we are working with TNA Wrestling in this part of TKO WWE. TNA is still being prominently featured, at least the way that TKO WWE wants to do it. This is what you get. Now, first, we get the tag champions, Axiom and Nathan Frazier. Unfortunately, not a verse. Well, not. I'm botching here because I truly wanted to see the Rascals go up against Axiom and Nathan Frazier. But we couldn't get that. Currently, one of the Rascals had minor surgery. That was Trey Miguel. He had minor surgery. I checked during the commercials, going to a couple of sites that I know for wrestling, and it's WrestleNews.com I went to. You can go there yourself. If you look for TNA News, you'll see that he was mentioned. Unfortunately, he had minor surgery. He didn't say what it was. It was from Sunday. He went to go in and do minor surgery. They hope he'll be all right, but they couldn't do the match. They just couldn't. So we got the Street Profits here. And I will tell you, having the Street Profits there, at first, I was not happy. I did not want to see it. That was before I went and checked during the commercial, and went to Wrestle News to find out what happened to Trey. But honestly, I wasn't interested in seeing the Street Profits, even though I knew they were going to do a good match. But because it was a short notice thing, I had to come to terms with that. And when you watch the match, it was a very good match when it came to the Street Profits versus Nathan Frazier and Axiom. There was no way it wasn't. Both teams are very good. And the crowd there were loving the Street Profits, and they wanted that smoke, baby. They wanted it. So that is what we got in the match. We got a great match out of both these teams. But I did not expect the Street Profits to win here, since it were last minute, and legitimately, Nathan Frazier and Axiom just won the titles back. There's no way they're going to just strip it from them and just give it to the Street Profits. That makes no sense. It would really screw up everything they're trying to build going into the CW in the next couple of weeks when they do their season premiere, their new home. So I didn't expect them to lose here. They just didn't. But here's where it gets interesting for the next match. We got Julia, the newly acquired Julia, in TKO NXT. Don't have to say NXT, but I'm saying it anyway. I don't care. I don't fucking care. I'm calling it TKO. I don't care. Even though no one is really questioning me on it. But we got her going against Chelsea Green. And I'm going to tell you this. I have seen Julia a couple of times. Not many. Maybe about 3 times I've ever seen her matches. No, she can wrestle. But when you looked at Julia versus a Chelsea Green, it just didn't feel like it was right. Julia felt slow, and this is what we're going to have to come to terms with. Even though the crowds loved Julia and they were cheering for Julia, honestly, when you see the situation, Julia just cranked back her abilities by maybe 20 or 30%. It's kind of like what was going on with I know you guys are not going to want to hear this, but when you compare Julia to Ricochet, she's now in the same situation Ricochet was when he was in WWE. He had to crank back at least 30 to 50% of how fast he normally would go. And this is what we got with Julia. You could feel that she was not as fast as she normally would be. She felt like she was slow. And the unfamiliarity with her and Chelsea Green is obvious. That next to that, it was a bit sloppy, that match. There was one point where it looks like they were going to do an electric chair. That Julia had Chelsea on her shoulders, and then it just looked like they changed the decision about it. It looked sloppy. Now, mind you, the headbutt in the very beginning of the match was actually very good. I'm also looking at my notes. But I'm remembering that the headbutt was pretty good. The electric chair looked like it was going to succeed, but then either Julia or Chelsea didn't want to do it, and then it just looked sloppy. And that could easily be because of unfamiliarity with each other. Because I don't think they even faced one another. If they had, it's been many years since they did. And maybe they've forgotten how to have their chemistry. Now, mind you, Julia won, and I'm not surprised that Julia won. There's no way that she was going to lose. Come on. This was her first match. She just came to the roster for NXT. There's no way that she's going to lose. The match was not trash, but you could feel that the match was slow, quite slow, and there were multiple botches. Mostly due because this is the first time she's in the company. She's probably dealing with Chelsea Green possibly for the first time. But this is just me, you guys. Tell me below. I'm sure you're going to say something else, which I want to hear it. You guys, you always know. Leave a comment below. Now, the third match, the Heritage Cup. Devon Evans versus Charlie Dempsey. Now, I'm going to go through this very quickly. If no one knows what a Heritage Cup match is, just in case there's somebody else, just in case maybe maybe somebody from the chat, from Amber's chat, may be watching this, or Amber herself. A Heritage Cup match, if you don't know what it is, on NXT, is a match they used to have in the UK, and they have an actual tournament trophy. And the people that are in that match, they have 6 matches, and they're going by a rating system. You either pin, submit, or could be counted out, and that could be considered a point, roughly speaking. And they got 6 rounds, about 3 minutes each. Now, when it came to the first round, we get Devon Evans not getting anything with Charlie Dempsey. Second match, or the second round, you got Charlie Dempsey getting a win. Third is going to be... guys, I'm just saying that Charlie Dempsey won. And if you haven't remembered Tabion Heights, he just came back from Japan, working in New Japan Pro Wrestling, I believe. Or who was he working with? Either New Japan Pro Wrestling, I believe he was. Because I didn't check to see where he was. Because it's not like I look at New Japan or All Japan or Pro Wrestling Noah. I don't know. I think it is New Japan. That he was there in the, what is it, G1 Climax, I believe? I'm not sure. I think he was in the G1 Climax. But he came back, screwed over Devon Evans, and in the end, we did get Charlie Dempsey winning the match. Now, here's the thing. I know I'm missing about match 4, match 5, and those were done. There was no match 6. Here's my problem. I didn't want to see Devon Evans go up against Charlie Dempsey. You know who I really wanted to go up against Charlie Dempsey? I wanted to go and have a match with Jonathan Gresham and Charlie Dempsey for the Heritage Cup. If anybody saw my TNA review, I believe it was next week, that was the best freaking match I have seen with Catch Cam Wrestling in years. Years. You saw Charlie Dempsey do moves that he would never do in NXT or WWE. He just doesn't do them. He does a much more restrained style of Catch Cam Wrestling. He does. But when he went to TNA, he went all out in his Catch Cam Wrestling style. And so did not Charlie Dempsey. You see, it's getting me angry because I'd rather see Jonathan Gresham come to NXT and go up against him. It would have been great to see this at Halloween Havoc. But maybe that might happen, but I doubt it. And honestly, even though the match wasn't bad, even though it did have some botches, let's be honest, when you look at Devon Evans, he is not a catch cam wrestler. He's not a ground type of mat-based wrestler. He's a high-flying, high-impact type of wrestler. A very aerial type of wrestler. He just doesn't look good when he's trying to do a tournament-style type of thing like this that has rounds of 6. And we went up to 5 rounds. He may have won 1. They tied 2 because neither one of them got a fall or got a submission. But he just didn't look like he was the right person for that type of match. And even though they tried to make a story behind it, saying that, and this was Charlie Dempsey to a Devon Evans, you are not meant for a type of match like a Heritage Cup match. You're not built for it. And since he's 20 years old, he's more of a high-flying wrestler, high-impact wrestler, high aerial wrestler. It shows. I'm sorry, it actually shows. He's not a bad wrestler. He's a good, high-fly, high-impact wrestler, but it just didn't work in that match. I'm just saying it. Next, we got Obafemi in a non-title match versus Hammerstone. Oh my gosh. The guy who first started out really being important in MLW, then goes to TNA, and now ends up on NXT. Major League Wrestling had him for years. TNA only just got him and had done some things with him, but they decided, since he's not really doing anything important, they decided to bring him over to NXT. I can't tell you that was a great match. I can't tell you it was a bad match. It was a power versus power. When you look at Tony D'Angelo, the Don of NXT, if you don't know who it is, just in case someone's watching, you have to watch NXT, but the Don of NXT, he wanted to get revenge on Obafemi, who's the current North American champion, and after losing to Obafemi, and Obafemi insulting members of his family, including Rizzo, who's like a cousin to, well, is basically a cousin in storyline, to the Don, he wanted a hitman. He wanted someone. So he paid, and guess what? What do we get? We get this match. And I'm not saying Hammerstone was bad. He was not, but this is another NXT situation where we got another TNA wrestler who doesn't get any wins. Look, we got the very first person who just got no win was Frankie Kazarian. Not counting a Joe Henry who got thrown out in the Battle Royal. You don't count him. But the first one is Frankie Kazarian. And from there, we get people that come into NXT. Look, Rosemary, who I'll mention in a few minutes, lost twice on NXT. And taken away from Joe Henry that they're sponsoring. And, of course, Jordan Grace that I'll talk about in a minute. And I was actually quite upset about that. Everyone else is not really sponsored very heavily. It's just not. So it kind of upsets me. But it's understandable because they're not going to let Obafemi job the Hammerstone, who's not one of the most prominent people on TNA. Only just came in this year. And we're not going to get much other than that. Of course, he lost. But now the question is, what is Tony D'Angelo going to do? Admittedly, I thought he was going to be somebody else. What was the guy's name? Colonel Azid. And I can't remember what his last name he was called in NXT. It's been so long, you guys can tell me below. I just forgot his name. I still remember as Colonel Azid when he was working with Apollo. Let's move on. Next match. Okay. Let me give you like this when it came to Duke Hudson and when it came to Rich Holland. The story is simple. Rich Holland is now on his own. He's had a taste of success, but he's also angry that he worked so hard to prove himself to Chase U and worked so hard to get the titles for Chase U. And he wanted to Chase U to succeed. He wanted to feel important with those titles. And when they lost it, he broke his mind and he became the person he's been resisting for over a year. And decided to destroy Chase U and Andre Chase. And Duke Hudson wanted to avenge Andre Chase. That didn't work out very well. Because after the match was over and I expected... Well, Rich Holland was meant to win. But let's be honest about this. We need to see destruction from Rich Holland. And he did. Not only did he do a retribution to... Well, it's not called that. But pretty much, when he nailed him heavily, he managed to form one into the retaining walls that's meant to keep the fans out. Fans out and the wrestlers in. He broke that thing and started throwing it on top of a Duke Hudson. You can see Thea Hale screaming and crying like her own father's beating up an uncle. That's how bad it was for her. She was screaming at him to stop and telling him to leave him alone. The question is how far they're going to go with Rich Holland. I am very curious to see what they're going to do with him. Because, yes, he will destroy Chase U one member after another. He's taken out Andre Chase. He's now nailed Duke Hudson. He'll probably take on a Riley Osborne. Not Osborne. I keep always forgetting his last name. Forget it. But let me give it to like this. Rich has to be in line for something. He's got to be. They got to give him something. Maybe going after the Heritage Cup. Because he's not going to go after the North American Championship or the NXT World Championship. He's not doing it. Unless they're going to move him up. That's the best he's got. Next. The Knockouts. Oh my goodness. This is where I'm upset. I'm sorry guys. And understand, this upsets me on two fronts too. The Knockouts Championship. Jordan Grace versus Soruka. They chose Soruka. And she did well. I'm not against Sol. You guys know me. Who knows me for so long. I like Soruka. I still believe she should crank back a little bit more of her gymnastic ability and work a little bit more with her wrestling, because it's still a little bit too unbalanced. But that's just my humble opinion. But I'm not against Sol. I actually like Sol. I think she's unique as a surfer type of wrestler. But here's the problem. I didn't want to see Sol go up against Jordynne Grace. You know who I'd rather see? Natalya. What happened to Natalya? She was on Raw on Monday. I know she was in a 6-woman tag. What happened to Natalya? She worked on NXT. Why not give her the distinction, the honor of being one of the rare women that has been in WWE for so long that she's recognized as the GOAT, the best of all time. She's in the Guinness Book of World Records, guys. If you don't know, she's had the most amount of women's matches in history of network television, international television, that is recognized. She's recognized by Guinness Book. She's recognized as having the most amount of matches anyone has ever had that has been known. And I'm like, why didn't you use her? Yeah, she's on the main roster, but she's worked on NXT before multiple times. What prevented them from doing it? Why? You had a chance with Jordynne Grace to give NXT even more prestige, letting one of the best and one of the most prestigious wrestlers that they supposedly have to do this. If they're not going to do it, unless it was going to be with Charlotte Flair, Ric Flair's daughter, which if she did it, there was no way that they're going to let her job. It would have been alright if Natalya did it, but they didn't. And the thing that gets me, that's good, but then it makes it worse, is that before the match was even finished, lights went off, came back on, we got Rosemary show up, who's now lost twice on NXT. She has not one match. She's lost twice. She's getting screamed at by Jordynne Grace. Why are you here? Get out of here. And she gets joked at. Well, she gets put to sleep by Wendy Chu. Yeah, she gets put to sleep by Wendy Chu. And when you look at the vid pack that they had produced, it looked better than what TNA could ever produce. And it wasn't like it was super substantial. It just looked well structured. This is one of the problems that TNA has right now, structuring their vid packs. And when you look at the vid pack from NXT, and this is not about how well the production is, guys. This is about how you structure it. It doesn't have to look incredibly good. It just needs to be done well. And it looks so well done and substantial. It was good. I want to see more of these type of vid packs for Rosemary and Wendy Chu, who are going to be going up against Lyra Valkyria and Tatum Paxley, who did have their moment. They had a moment to talk. I'm going to leave it because next week they're going to have the match. But I'm not going to talk about the segment with the dollhouse. Even though I could. That'll take too long with this video. But it was alright. But now, the final match. We have the last man standing match. Pete Dunne versus Trick Williams. Whoever wins goes to the CW premiere. And they get a shot at Ethan Page's NXT Championship. And as you know, a last man standing match is a last man standing match. Whoever can stay up and not get counted out by the count of 10 is the winner. Now, is it the best last man standing match I've seen? No, I've seen way better. But for an NXT show, it was good. For NXT, I know there was one between Dijak and Ilana Dragunov that I felt was probably better, and that was probably last year. But honestly, this was good, particularly for Trick Williams, who's never done the last man standing match. Pete Dunne probably has, more than a few times I've done it in the indies. And for any UK show, so this isn't unfamiliar to him. It was done pretty well. By the time it was near the end of that match, I knew Trick was going to win. I just knew. The way they structured the match, it was obvious they're trying to show Trick had to come up with adversity. Going against a veteran who's done this, ate it, chewed it out. And also, I didn't say this before, excuse me. When you look at the vid packs for both of them, well, not the vid pack, but the videos for both of them talking about going through Last Man Standing, and you see Pete Dunne's eyes all punched out. It was done decently well. So by the time we were at the end of this match, and they climbed on top of one parapet that was set up, and they fell back onto some chairs that were covered up, as you always know, they always do that. It was done alright. And then we see Ethan Page wanting so badly for Pete Dunne to win, and no Trick, but it didn't work. Trick was getting up, and then you see Ethan wanting to literally stop him, but he gets pretty much thrown onto the announce table, and pretty much it broke, and Trick won. So Trick is now the one who's going to get the contract signing next week, and he will go to the CW as the challenger to Ethan Page. This was good. I don't agree with everything, but it's good. This was a good, hot show. But then I think, when are we going to see some of this rub off on TNA? Now, I'm not going to talk about it here because I should leave that for TNA and my thoughts on how much they not progress or have progressed. Because I don't want this thing to be so long, but it already is. It's like 26 minutes. But I hope you enjoy this. Please comment. Yeah, give me at least one comment. Maybe one subscribe. No, not subscribe. Just a like. And please check out Ember Paradox. I'll leave the link below. Give her a look. I mean, yeah, you may not like VTubers, but she's entertaining. At least that's me. Peace.